The much anticipated Canon EOS R1 is going to have 8K video, a minimum 45 megapixel sensor, not overheat in 8K video or any other video modes, and have a full-size professional grade body. Stick around after the intro as I give you my logic behind this deduction. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning into The Ordinary Filmmaker. Subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one so you don't miss any news, rumors, gear reviews, or tutorials. And to make things a little bit more exciting, I'm giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. Details are in the description down below, or you can watch this video here, but please look at the terms and conditions as there are some age and location restrictions. And now for the news. Last week I published a video about a crazy set of Canon EOS R1 so-called leaked specifications. I gave you my analysis and how they didn't really fit with Canon's primary customer for the Canon R1. I spent the better part of today trying to work out key R1 capabilities. Now we know that the Canon EOS R1 is the successor to the 1DX Mark III, and that this R1 is going to be a significant upgrade over the 1DX Mark III. Now the 1 series has always been targeted to those that shoot fast action, sports, or anything else that needs a high-speed shutter. It's about speed, it's about getting the shot right the first time, in focused and exposed correctly. The Canon R1 isn't going to be any different, and this is how Canon thinks. Now the Sony Alpha 1 has a 50 megapixel sensor capable of a staggering 8.6K oversampled 8K video. Now this is Sony's new flagship camera that was announced last month. The successor to the Nikon D6 will have 8K video. Kenji Oshii just confirmed so, saying, "Our engineers are considering powerful video features such as 8K video that respond to the needs of all kinds of content creators and professionals." And that successor to the D6, the one getting 8K video, well, it's coming out later this year, and thanks to DP Review for their exclusive with Nikon. Now the competition does already have 8K technology, but Canon has already had 8K RAW in the R5 since July of last year. They were first to market. The 1 series camera always has better video capabilities than the 5 series camera. It's always the way it's always been, and I see no reason why the 1 series camera this time around in the R1 won't have better video or better video capabilities than the R5, meaning it's going to have at least 8K video capabilities. Like it or not, 8K has become a top shelf capability. Now this leads me to believe that Canon will use the same 45 megapixel sensor found in the R5, or at least an upgraded version, better, faster, that kind of thing. What I don't expect is anything crazy like an 85 megapixel sensor. It just doesn't fit Canon's ideal customer for this camera. What about focus, you ask? Well, quad pixel autofocus is possible, and we've seen a patent about this late last year. Now, it would make sense for Canon to introduce the quad pixel autofocus to the Canon R1, giving photographers better focus when shooting at an angle or in portrait style. Now, I'm not committing to this, but it's certainly plausible. And now, for the elephant in the room. The biggest issue holding back the Canon R5 from crushing the competition was the overheating in the high resolution modes, and completely distracted the whole conversation last summer. Now we've seen several examples of where people have taken the R5 and have been able to record unlimited 8K RAW video by doing some, well, putting the camera under the gun. For example, I remember this one gentleman who actually fabricated a copper pad, put it underneath one of the circuit boards, connected it up to the magnesium case for better heat dissipation, and he was able to record 8K unlimited 8K RAW video inside that small body. And that's, we can all look at the R5 and see the thermals inside they're not very good. There's no heat pipes or anything like that. So just imagine a properly designed thermal architecture in the R5, and of course a bigger body won't hurt. I expect the 1 series camera to use the same size, large professional grade body as the 1DX Mark III. It wouldn't take too much to provide unlimited 8K video for the R1 without overheating, and give it the needed battery life that pros need. I just wonder if Canon will remove that 30-minute record limit. Now I am going to go on a bit of a rant here, because this is my way of getting attention to let Canon know that we don't like this. You'll remember way back that Canon said, look, we're listening to our customers, and if we get enough feedback, we will, we'll address these concerns. So once again, I want to draw attention to WTF. Sony doesn't have a 30-minute record limit. I've been recording with this A7S III for a long time now, and it's just wonderful. But here's the thing. all the reasons why we do have that 30-minute record limit. It is based on fact. There was a tax put on by the European Union that added a tax of anywhere from 7 to 14% on stills cameras that provided video recording for longer than 30 minutes. Well, as of July, and I believe it was 2020, I don't believe it was 2019, but as of July 2020, that is gone. And in my video on the R5, the R6, and the EOS R, that detailed review video, I go on to about 6 minutes taking you through all the legislation, everything. It's gone. We don't need that in there anymore. Now, the R5 is a $4,000 camera. It's ridiculous that it has overheating. Same with the R6. And the R1, I really, really hope the R1 doesn't have that 30-minute record limit. No matter what they do in terms of thermal limits, no matter if they give us 8K RAW unlimited, whether they give us 16-bit, 14-bit, whatever it is, if we still have that 30-minute record limit, you just got to shrug your shoulders and go, WTF. Anyhow, let's sum things up. I forecasted that the Canon EOS R1 will have 8K RAW video, unlimited, no overheating. It will have a minimum 45 megapixel sensor. Quad pixel autofocus is plausible, but I'm not sure about that thing. And it's going to have the same large professional grade body we've come accustomed to in 1 series cameras. But what do you think? Do you concur with my logic? Let me know in the comments section down below. And now, let's go behind the scenes. In this episode of Behind the Scenes, I want to talk to you a little bit about my weekend, because I really wanted to have this video out earlier in the day. In fact, I even thought about recording it Saturday night. But you'll remember a couple of weeks back I said how I just felt absolutely exhausted. I was producing a video a day, sometimes twice, and I decided that this weekend I was going to take a break. And guess where I was today? I was on the lake. Yes, I was on the lake. It's frozen. You see, it's March, and today is March the 7th, so usually sometime between now and the middle of March is when the ice is the thickest on the lake, and then after that you get a warm spell and you just can't trust the ice anymore after that. Because what really happens is when you go from something like minus 15 all the way up to 15 or 10 degrees, and you do that for a few days, ice expands. And what happens when it expands, it opens up pressure ridges, the ice on top gets fractured and very soft. And when it cools down again, it's not a very stable surface. And of course, you're not going to get cold enough for that to get fixed. So it was sunny outside, and I said to my son, I said, Liam, how would you like to go up to Lake Simcoe? How would you like to go on the ice? And of course, he's 6 going on 7. You know what he said. Yes, but I want Mommy to come. Well, you see, my wife, she was planning on baking us some apple pies, and yeah, apple pies with cinnamon. Oh, they were good. There's only a little bit left. No, I didn't take a picture. I don't know what I was thinking. So anyhow, my son kept badgering my wife, come on, come on, come on. And I know she doesn't enjoy this. She doesn't enjoy walking on the ice and that. You love coming out on the ice? Mm-hmm. It's fun, right? Mm-hmm. No, you're lying. And of course, the entire time we were there, he didn't listen. He didn't do anything that he was supposed to because, well, we're both there and he's excited. And this is one of those rare occasions where I was on the ice. And other than a few patches, it was smooth. Normally, and you might think, well, Simon, yeah, of course, that's ice when the lake freezes. Well, no, this is a rather large lake. It's about 20 by 21 kilometers or miles, something like that. It's a very, very big lake. And a lake that big doesn't freeze over completely in a nice smooth sheet of ice. Usually right at the shore you get these little blocks that are about this big or this big, and they come together more or less like a jigsaw puzzle, and it becomes very rough, and then usually the rest of the ice will form, and before it gets strong enough to get on, we usually get a lot of snow, and of course the snow creates some warmth, and you have a terrible, terrible surface. But this was smooth. We must have had a bit of a thaw and then freeze again, and it was very slippery. So he was sliding around. He was having a great time. And I was out there shooting myself. Well, not shooting myself. I myself was shooting. Sorry, my grammar, speak me not. Come on, give me a break. It's 10 o'clock at night here. So we were out shooting, and I was trying to get different shots. I don't get on the ice very often. I think it's once every 2 years or even longer. And at this age, I thought, let's get out there, let's get some video for the family photos. So that's what I'm showing you here, some of the video we got today. I even took the drone up and got some video, but it's funny, the view from up top, the ice looks completely different. It doesn't have that smooth, glassy look, but one thing you can see in the drone shot is some of the cracks that are already starting to open up. And normally this part of the ice, they're crack-free. This particular lake, Lake Simcoe, I know where all the major pressure ridges form because they form there every year based on ice movement. So you know there's certain places you need to watch out for. But as you start to get to March, as things start to heat and thaw, you can have uneven melting of the ice from underneath the ice. So if you've got water that's discharging from the shore, it comes underneath, it eats away at the ice there, but as it continues going out into the lake, it's warmer and it's a bit more turbulent, so it starts to wear down the ice. So you might only have 6 inches versus 2 feet. And the ice we were on was only about 14 inches or about, what, 30, 35 centimeters? And normally this time of year, that ice is a good 2 to 3 feet thick. Yeah, 2 to 3 feet thick. Anyways, it was big enough for us. I didn't take our car in it this year because I looked at the ramp onto the ice and it was a little bit too, how should we say, bumpy for my RAV4 that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get back up. And I wasn't going to be one of those guys from the city who got stuck on the ice and was in the newspaper. That wasn't going to happen to me. So anyhow, let's get back to why I'm telling you about this. So what I decided to do is I decided to relax. I came home and I only started putting this script together, a couple of hours ago. I wasn't even sure that I was going to film it today. I might have even have left it for Monday morning. But I revisited a video that DP Review put out with their exclusive on Nikon. And I saw this on Friday night and I thought, you know what, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And to be honest, I don't get a lot of views on Nikon, so I thought I won't really miss it. And nobody reminded me, hey, did you see that news on Nikon? And I was actually mentioning it to Jordan. I said, Jordan, great scoop on that. And I didn't put anything out Saturday, so I thought, you know what, let's wrap that up in here as well. And let's talk about the R1, because one of the biggest things that bothered me about those rumored specs that came out on Friday is, if you know enough about how Canon targets their gear towards customers, you know that those specifications didn't make any sense for that customer group. It was just all over the place. It was as though they got the specs from, or the rumored specs from the Canon R5S. They took stuff from the Sony, like the 9.44 million dot EVF and stuff that you were going to see in the R1, as well as some other rumors. And it just seemed like they were just pulling stuff from different places. It didn't really seem like a holistic, coherent thought. And so I spent part of the weekend figuring out, well, okay, so if Canon's going to do this, let's see if we can nail off some of the big features. And video is something I know very, very well. And I know that the 1 series always has better video than the R series. And what's been bothering me for the longest time is, if the R1's going to have better video capabilities than the R5, that means it's going to have 8K. And I wasn't so sure about that. But then Sony came out with 8K. Now Nikon says they're coming out with 8K. So now it just seems, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I think Canon would probably come out with something like 45 megapixels. They could go 50 like Sony, but I think 45 is probably best. And they'll do 8K RAW. Sony's not doing 8K RAW. They're doing 8.6K oversampled. So 8K really makes a lot of sense now. The way everyone's coming around is they're thinking, yeah, okay, looks like 8K is now top shelf, at least in 5 series cameras and above, or anything around that caliber. Well, if you're going to put a 8K video in a camera, that means you have to start off with 45 megapixels. You can go a little lower, but Canon's not going to put in 4K UHD. They're going to put in 4K DCI and UHD, which means you need at least a 45 megapixel sensor. So once you've kind of got those two things out of the way, it helps you determine other things. And of course, let's talk about frame rates, because, and I should have mentioned this in the other part of the video, but I really strongly believe that Canon's going to be able to give us something like 20 frames per second mechanical. And I know what some of you are thinking, yeah, but we had that in the 1DX Mark III. No, we had 20 frames per second electronic, not mechanical. Now, with mechanical, at 45 megapixels, I think it's very possible to push 30 to 35. They might even be able to get up to 40 frames per second in electronic. But there's an awful lot that goes into making that happen. And of course, it depends on whether you're shooting RAW, whether you're shooting HEIF, or whatnot. But I certainly think that what Sony's put out there, 20 and 30 frames per second, is possible. Although the Sony Alpha 1, I believe, does, I think it's 10 frames per second mechanical. But I'd be surprised, strongly surprised, if the R1 doesn't at least do 18 frames per second. But I think 20 is a nice round number. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But outside of that, I don't want to speculate too much, because as we start to move away from those key pegs in the ground, almost anything can happen. And what we saw with the R5 is, I would not have projected that the Canon 5D Mark V, which turned out to be the R5, would be as strongly capable as it is. And I know some people will groan and comment on this, but look, let's go back in time. The EOS R, the last camera that Canon put out, that was in the RF lineup. It had 4K, but it was cropped. Every single camera that Canon put out had cropped 4K. Just to be able to shoot 4K video on a full-frame sensor without it being cropped is amazing, let alone having 8K oversampled 4K. And of course, everything else that's in the R5. So I'm pretty sure that the R1 is going to have our mouths just speechless on the camera when they announce it. And maybe not as much now because we're seeing so many things come out, like the R5 kind of spoiled us. So when the Alpha 1 came out, we're going like, oh yeah, that's plausible. But if the Alpha 1 had to come out before the R5, we'd be like, wow, the Alpha 1, how incredible is that? So we're kind of getting used to some of these extreme features, but I still think that the R1 is going to surprise us. I just don't exactly know where that's going to be yet. I don't know how they're going to improve the video, but I think definitely overheating, removing that is going to be a huge improvement because now you can just use it and use it and use it. But that 30-minute record limit, I really do hope that's gone. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker and watching me rant and also kind of meander all over and behind the scenes. It wasn't really a coherent thought tonight, but it's late. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win 2 Angelbird 128GB AV Pro MK2 B90 SD cards along with a dual SD card reader. Or you could also win a Ulanzi LED light package with accent lights, underwater lights, and various flat panel lights that you can use for lighting up your subject or for starting your own YouTube channel. And I'll be awarding these 2 prize bundles once the channel reaches 30,000 subscribers, and then I'll be awarding other prize bundles all the way up to 100,000, at which point I'll be giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. And on that bombshell, thank you so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. May you have a good week, and we'll see you again soon.